Well, welcome back. Thought I'd do another project today. It's always something to do with the 4 to 5 acre place that a lot of people have. Bought a used UTV side-by-side Rhino Yamaha, but we need some place to park it, and we don't want to put it in a building so that you got to go get a key, and it's just not convenient. We wanted it so we could jump in it and ride to the backside, check on the bees, burn trash, whatever the case may be. So, did some snooping around, saw where some people were making these, and I wanted to put this video out so that you could see how to make your own, basically, hoop shed, used for any number of things, not just UTV, ATV, but doing it without welding. Now, I could have welded this up, got metal, but right now I think everybody knows the metal prices are crazy. So I'm going to run you through this real quick. I've got most of the stuff already done, and then I'll bring the video back up like I normally do when it's put together. But I'm going to explain what I've done to this point, and you guys take notes. All right, so what we got here is a jig that I did by driving posts or pieces of pipe into the ground. You come back here and you have to set yourself up something. I had a fence here. You can drive stakes in. You can use anything that substantially won't move. So there's the fence. Put a piece of plywood there and just a couple of pipe hangers that I had, and that'll hold the pipe in place. Then I came back here off of that first pipe hanger and measured 48 inches. Now, why 48 inches? This is going to be an 8-foot wide and approximately 8-foot high hoop house. The pipe I'm using is top rail from Lowe's out in the garden center. If you remember my coyote roller video, it's the same stuff again, top rail. About $20 a stick right now, so it's still reasonable. You'll get this, you'll come back here from where I've got this screwdriver with a string or a tape measure, doesn't matter, and you'll start measuring 48 inches. And everywhere you put the tape down, so that looks to be every 6 to 8 inches, you'll drive a piece of pipe in until you come around to a 90 degree from the screwdriver. That gives you the radius. Okay, so if it's a 4-foot radius and a 4-foot radius, that'll give you 8 foot across, and that'll give you basically an 8-foot hoop. Okay, then you'll slide your piece in. You'll measure on one end where the reduction is not, and you'll measure back to 50 inches where I've got that marked. When I get ready to bend this, I'm going to slide that mark right to this bracket. That's my target while I'm bending this thing, so I make sure that it doesn't move on me. Once I get that there, it's just going to sit there. That gives me the length of the leg. Then I'll come out here and I'll stick another piece on the other end where the reduction is. Now, what you got to do here is make sure that when you go to bend this, you don't bend this reduction. It's a lighter weight piece of metal, or it's with it being reduced, it will bend easier. So once you slide the other top rail in, I take a bigger piece of pipe and I slide it over by about 4 or 5 inches so it acts as a brace. Then I come out here on the end and I bend this dude. So let's go ahead and let's bend this one while it's here. It's actually ready to go. So what you'll have is a reduction on one end when you're finished and not the other. When we bend the next piece of pipe, we'll put the reduction end in because you want that to be the leg, and we'll measure 50 inches up from that. It's an overall height from the ground up is what you want. Don't worry about this slipping in and fitting into to the other piece right here. It's literally 50 inches off of each end. So I'm going to try to do this with the phone in hand, and we'll see where we get without stepping on stuff. Sunshine's kind of shining. I apologize about that, but you guys can see we're getting the bend made here. Don't go too much further past here because you'll start bending the other pipe and you don't want to do that yet. Now you notice it springs back. At this point, you keep checking your mark back here on the board. You'll come up here and you'll use the shorter pipe, not necessarily the long one anymore, and you'll keep finessing it. You may have to raise it above a couple of these last stakes and to allow it to pass, spring back, and you may even have to pull this out this way so it's away from where the mark is so that you can continue to work on this curve. It takes a little finessing. The main thing here is to get it to where it's almost 8 foot from that leg to where the one will sit over here, and that you got a fairly decent hoop. You see where I've matched these up already. Took some finessing, they're pretty close. Same on this other pair. I got 2 more to do. Then once you actually put them together, you'll slide the reduction end into the other end. Like I said, only one reduction end's at the top. Makes sense, just follow your tube. And with the reduction end and this end here, I will go ahead and fasten them together with a bolt or probably roofing screws. And I'll show you those here in a second. Once you have that done, you've got your hoops made. Now the base. I set this video up so, like I said, you would not have to weld. I got 8 foot 4x4s, 6 inches back from the end here, a center hole, and another 6 inches from the other end. I used a 1 1/4 speed bore. There it is right there. Got a little screw on the end, and believe me, it digs. Now, that will work perfectly for the reduction end. You're going to put all your reductions on one side. The other side's going to have the full diameter tube. So what you've got to do with this 1 1/4 inch, because you want a tight fit, is come back, and I got a good old sheet metal or pipe, drill all, do all, whatever you want to call it. It's a big one. That is running 1 3/8 on its biggest cut. I will sink that on the reduction side only in 1/4 inch. That will allow that pipe to basically sit flush on the bottom side with the wood, and it won't go any further in. Good to go. But on this other side where the larger diameter goes, you will have to run this all the way in as far as you can, flip it over, run it in all that you can from the other end, then come back and get your speed bit and work that. It's about 1 inch of material left when you come in from both sides, and work that hole until you can slide a full diameter pipe in it snugly. Reduction side, full diameter side. Everything will line up fine. At that point, she's bolted together. She'll be about 8 foot apart. I've got anchors, trailer anchors, that I'm going to go ahead and I'll anchor these so that they are 8 foot apart, make sure everything's aligned, and then I'll hang good old roofing tin. I got the silver painted. Anything else with paint on it's $10 to $20 higher now, but that's what's going to go on it, and it'll cover 3/4 of the way down one side all the way to the other side. You need 5 pieces of 8 foot sheet metal. Okay, so let's go over this again. These are 10 foot top rails for chain link fence. These are 4x4 by 8 feet long. 6 inches in from the end, you will drill your holes with your 1 1/4 inch speed bit. One side you will leave that way and only take your do-all, drill-all, whatever you want to call it, and that is 1 3/8 inches. Make sure I'm telling you that right. Yep. And recess it 1 rib in. Once you recess it in that hole, that's as deep as you go. Then on the other side, you'll push it all the way in as far as you can. You can even extend that a little bit more in the chuck. Come in from the other side, and what material's left in the middle, you will have to put that arbor back on and ream that hole out. You'll eventually get it cleaned out to where that tube will pass in. Once you have the hoops bolted together. You've got them set in these timbers. You come here and you can see I've got another bolt here. I actually bought a little bit too long carriage bolt, but I'm going to drill in halfway down all the way through the tubing so that it's locked into place. It's not about holding it tight. It's about basically a locking pin for each leg. At that point, I'll be ready to hang the sheet metal, which basically you'll mark the same distance you've got these holes on your sheet metal on each piece so that your alignment is the same, so that you don't have rail starting to do this as it's going away from you. You'll be able to hit your marks from the sheet metal to the tube and run it all the way around. So at that point, what I'm going to do now is finish this up, and the next part of the video I'll pull up where I've got it assembled without sheet metal, and then the third part that'll fade in will be with the sheet metal on. So hopefully this goes as planned. So far, so good. I've got to bend 2 more rails and I'll have my hoops complete. It takes 6 sections of the top rail from the chain link fence department, because you're going to have 3 sets of hoops. And like I said, it's about 8 foot wide and almost 8 foot tall, and it will hold my UTV no problem. Rhino side by side. Hopefully this helps. See you on the next one. Okay, we've got everything shaped up and ready to go together. I wanted to show you this one thing though. When you fasten these hoops together at the top, I went ahead and brought them into the shop, laid them on the floor flat so that when I drill into them, I'm not going to use a bolt all the way across. You can use a bolt. I'm going to use the roofing screws. They're self-drilling, so I don't have to mess with the drill bit. But that way everything's laid flat on the concrete so that when I lock them in, I don't have a leg going left and a leg going right. It's just so it won't be a mess. But this is what I'm talking about. So here I've got them laid out here in the shop. 2 of them did real good. One of them's got a little flat spot in it, just pieces of pipe moving. You'll have the same problem. Someone will say, why did you do the pipe in the ground? All right, get a big piece of plywood, full sheet of plywood, and screw a bunch of screws in it. Make a 4-foot radius on it if you want to do it. There's several ways you can bend this pipe. The concept's still the same. You have to make yourself a jig. But with them laying flat on the ground here, I will come in here where the union comes together, and I will drill at least 1, if not 2, to lock these in. Same thing up there. But they're laying flat on the ground so I don't have a leg up and a leg down. So I just wanted to give you that piece on how to assemble those before you put them into the 4x4 bases. Well, here's the last shot for the day. The mosquitoes are starting to try to pack me off. I got 2 lined up pretty good and 1 little flat back there. That's because you just don't have a solid jig where you'd run these professionally. I've been pulling them out, taking them back over to my jig setup, and readjusting and tweaking them while they're assembled. You can do that. I'll get that last one squared up so it's fairly in line with the others, and then we'll be putting the sheet metal on it tomorrow. Other than that, I'm going to the house. Well, day 2, had work to do in the morning. Got out here this afternoon and finished her up. That's 5 sheets of 10. I did do a couple changes since yesterday. I changed it to a 12-foot instead of an 8-foot, just so that I had enough length to cover everything. Pretty good, pretty square, nothing fancy. Came in here, like I said, this was a no welding project, so drilled carriage bolts all the way through to lock the legs in once I got everything set. Pinned the 4x4s in place with just 1/2-inch pipe so that they wouldn't wobble right and left, because there is no cross bracing in this like your heavier square tube industrial carports. Another pin there. That is a big anchor that you use for holding down trailers. It's about a 2-foot auger anchor. You get them at Lowe's also, over in the concrete section. Got one on both sides to lock it down. Pin in the back. Did the same thing on the far side. You can see inside everything fairly matches up well. It was a little bit off on that second one, real good in the front. You're gonna get that when you don't have a good jig. When you do what I did in the ground, you can get it as close as you can, and sometimes you hit it dead on the money, sometimes you don't. But everything's square, and that's real important to get it square while you're putting the tin on. Get your tin level. And now, it's where I wanted to put it. I know that post is kind of right there, but the ATV fits right in, no problem. If I had a bigger ATV, I'd just keep backing it in from the front, but this is where we wanted to park it next to the house. Anyway, I hope that this helps you guys, let you know that you can do something without welding. And I expect it to be here for a long time. I did do a foot overhang on the metal roofing. A lot of people put it a lot closer. I just wanted to make sure I had plenty of length. Those are 10-foot 4x4s. If I'd used 12-foot 4x4s, then I would have been able to spread the legs out a little bit more. By going back and extending this, the original 8-foot plans, I was hitting right at $300 in material from Lowe's. With the steel right now, stupid. So with the extra cost of lengthening everything, she is just shy of $400 doing it yourself. So anyway, ATV, UTV, garden, whatever, you can build it for yourself. Don't need a welder. Treated 4x4s on the ground. This is a 12-footer, 10-foot 4x4s on the ground. You can go 12 by 12, whatever. She's 8 foot across and almost 8 foot tall. And you're using top rail from chain link fencing at Lowe's, and those are 10-foot sections. So total 20 foot from one post, making the arc all the way over to the other post. But you'll need 6 of those, 2 of the 4x4s, and self-drilling roofing screws. And that's about all I can think of. So hopefully this helps. Thanks.